Mics are hot. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Roger live.
Hi, I'm Roger Simmons with OrlandoSentinel.com, and this is a special edition of Orlando News Now. As you may have heard, there was a deadly shooting in downtown Orlando overnight. 50 people dead, 52 people injured, the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history. Here to help talk about what's going on with in terms of our coverage, we have two reporters who have been following the story with us here. We have Crystal Hayes, who was one of the first reporters on the scene of the shooting, and also Nassim Miller, who was at the hospital to talk about with the victims and some of their families. First, Crystal, walk me through how this happened.
So we first got word of kind of what was happening around 2:30, I'd say. We heard rumors that there possibly was some sort of shooting. We were able to confirm that about 3. From there, traveling through downtown Orlando was a complete nightmare. Everything was shut down. There was gunmen on every single intersection with large assault rifles. You couldn't really get anywhere in downtown.
Large police presence everywhere.
Everywhere. I went towards ORMC, Orlando Regional Medical Center, and from there, ambulance started pouring in. There was people outside ORMC, loved ones who just said that they knew that there was a shooting. They didn't know anything about how many people had been injured. From there, we hung out and we saw deputies dressed in military gear with police canines searching all around the area, looking in cars, stopping people along the road. Even as I was along the road, police stopped me and told me to get out of my car. From there, as things developed, we learned that there was definitely a mass casualty inside the club. I talked with one witness who was inside the club when the shots started. He said that he got down and he started crawling on the floor. He said that there was just bodies everywhere. He said at first when he heard the gunshots, he thought that it was part of the music, and then they just kept coming, and they kept getting louder, like they were getting closer to him. He dropped to the floor, started crawling, helped 2 different people, one of which he said that he actually took a bandana off of his head, tied it in a knot, and stuffed it into a gunshot wound in this man's back. From there, another woman who he said that he also helped with shot in the arm. He helped her as well. He stayed with her until authorities were able to come. He said that they were marking the bodies with different colors: yellow for not as severe wounds, and red for the most severe. He said that the man who he had helped was actually marked with a red flag, and he didn't even know if he was actually alive. From there, he said that a large amount of deputies came in, and he started helping bringing bodies out. I was over near Orlando Regional Medical Center, and we saw just truckloads of deputies bringing victims to ORMC. I saw a deputy doing chest compressions on a woman in the back of a pickup truck. And from there, we finally kind of started to hear about what was going on. We heard that there were at first 20 people possibly dead, and then from there it just...
Right, about 10 o'clock, Mayor Buddy Dyer is the one who gave out the news that the death toll had risen to 50. Now, talking about the timeline, originally this was, if I understand correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, there were shots fired at the club. The gunman came out, then went back in, and it became a hostage situation.
Yeah, so everything kind of started right towards closing time, about right around 2. Police said that there was a man outside. An officer was working as a security guard at Pulse Nightclub, and somehow gunfire exchanged with the officer. We don't know exactly what sort of interaction they had together. But we do know that they exchanged gunfire, and the suspect backed into the club, and that turned into a hostage situation. And from there, we know the gunman opened fire inside the club, hitting over 100 people. And then from there, he continued firing. We know that there was a bomb threat. He was possibly a device, so everyone was evacuated. The eyewitness that I talked to said that the gunfire continued even after people were evacuated. the gunman just kept firing.
Orlando, Orange County, Seminole County law enforcement all responded, and they brought the SWAT team in and were able to do a hostage rescue. I think it was about 5 a.m. The shooter was pronounced dead at about 5:53, I think is what the timeline says. And he's been identified as, I got to get the name right, Omar Mateen of Port St. Lucie. We're still trying to get some information on it. They are Senator Bill Nelson, shortly before we went on, said that he received information from the Senate Intelligence Committee that there may be an ISIS connection to this, so we'll be following up on that as we continue coverage. But Nasim, let me bring you in and talk about, you were at the hospital where a lot of the families and victims came. Tell me about the scene you encountered there and who you talked to.
So by the time I got there, it was around 7 o'clock in the morning, and it wasn't actually as busy as you would expect. It was very calm, quiet, and a lot of extended family members were actually outside because they can't get in. RMC since then until now still is on lockdown, which means they're only taking patients who are very critically injured, and the only people who can go in are family members, immediate family members of shooting victims. So I saw people outside. Some lady was crying because her husband had a stroke and she couldn't get in. There was a chaplain who was outside, came from a church, and she was there just to console people. Some people were bringing water to hand out. So it was a very supportive environment, but at the same time, at times when people would come out, it would get very emotional. I saw a few people discharged early in the morning. One of them had just some glass cuts. One of them actually did have a surface gunshot wound. That was all patched up, and he was ready to go home. And there were a few others who were not injured, but I guess they were taken in to be checked out, and they came out and they were very, very distraught.
Now, you talked to one mother who received a text message from her son. Is that correct? I'm trying to. We've had so many reporters doing everything. Yes.
It wasn't my reporting that showed that, but there were a lot of families, moms there who had heard from their children that one mom, her son was there and he was still crying. He was not injured, and he was taken to a police station to be interviewed by the FBI. And then he came back and went inside the hospital. I think they had family members in there too. So,
if there's anything that shows that what brings a community together is tragedy, it's perhaps the news that there are just lines, incredibly long lines at One Blood and other blood donation centers across Central Florida, because there was a call for blood originally. I know that the One Blood website crashed as well. We have reports still in line. Some local businesses are bringing food and snacks to the people to stay in line. So, I mean, if you want to look for any sort of good news out of this, I think that might be it, that the community at least is rallying, but it's going to be a lot of very tough times ahead for us. So, Crystal, basically, where do we go from here? Do you have any idea? I mean, they're going to continue. We have to wait for the bodies to be removed from the Pulse Nightclub at this point?
Yeah, police said that the next thing that they're working on is IDing everyone. I know, as Nasim mentioned, family members are awaiting. I spoke to one mom who didn't know what happened to her son. She hasn't been able to reach him since this whole thing came about. Police said that's what they're really working on now, so that might be kind of the next step. Along with that, I know the FBI is definitely trying to figure out what led this man to do this. So they're definitely investigating every sort of avenue to figure out.
All right. Well, we'll be continuing coverage of this story for the days and I think weeks to come as well. Stay with OrlandoSentinel.com for more coverage of the deadly mass shooting at the Pulse Nightclub.